y'all? What is going on? This is your man El Jamal, and today I got another edition of what I like to call Upon Further Review. Of course, this is where I like to do my reviews. Today, of course, like the introduction tells you, we are going to be getting into a Wayans brother flick. Of course, White Chicks. Not much has to be said about this one in terms of an introduction. We already know this stars Sean and Marlon Wayans. They also work as producers, the directors, as well as Keenen Ivory Wayans as well. A couple others. They also worked on the screenplay for this one as well. So let's just get right into it. I'm not gonna go into a deep plot, to a deep plot synopsis, because of course this is one of those movies that I figure is pretty popular. A lot of us do know about this one. Of course, when this first came out, though, so this one is gonna be more of a, in this case, more gonna be like of a perspective, especially where I'm at now. But when this first came out, of course, this was 2004. This will put me around, I believe, about 13 years old. I was really heavily into the Wayans brothers at this time. Definitely a big fan of Scary Movie 2. Didn't really watch the third or fourth, but I think the third that came out around this time, didn't really catch that one. Don't believe that they were in the third one or the fourth one, but again, just a big fan of their movies at the time. Still am to an extent. So when this one came out, this one was the same thing. I gobbled it up. I thought it was hilarious, especially with the scene that I showed you in the beginning. I thought that was one of my favorite scenes, and just in general, just something that had me rolling a lot as a kid. But as I've gotten older, and I've seen it quite a few times since then, of course, recently for this review as well. But certain things don't hit the same for some reason. So I'm gonna break down why it doesn't hit the same. It doesn't feel the same for me anymore. And a couple things actually, because it's not just gonna be me piling on it, because again, just because it doesn't hit me in the same way, I'm not laughing at it the same way that I used to. I'm not going to trash the movie and say it was trash. It's a little bit hyperbole. I'm not going to go all there. It just doesn't resonate with me the same way as it did. But there's certainly some things that I did like about it regardless. So let's get into it. Like I said, we're just going to have a brief synopsis here, brief discussion about what this plot is, what it's about. And of course, Marlon and Sean, of course, in this movie played brothers as well. They played Marcus and Kevin Copeland. Sean is Kevin, and of course Marlon is Marcus Copeland. Of course, they are FBI agents. They seem to care very much about their jobs. They just happen to not always have the best of luck, but they are into disguises. They are into setting up sting operations and stuff like that. That's how this movie starts off. They are under disguise as these they're Puerto Rican, Cuban guys, whatever, and they're trying to trap down this local drug dealer, but it doesn't work. It ends in a failure, and you get a couple things coming in the beginning of the movie. You get a couple trends that you'll see throughout the movie, with their boss, Section Chief Elliot Gordon, played by Frankie Faison. You'll see the trend of him giving them a hard time, lashing out at them, and then you also see, even in the beginning, you'll have Marcus's wife calling, just trying to get at Marcus, mad. She's tripping, even though they're supposed to be married. She's played by Fawn Chambers Watkins. Of course, that's Gina Copeland, Marcus's wife. I always thought that was the pre-Tiffany Haddish, in my opinion. They are so similar. I know the way that they look, but in just the way that they act, the way that they talk. This was Tiffany Haddish for 2009, 2000, all that, 2004, that whole early 2000s era. This was Tiffany Haddish before Tiffany Haddish, right there. Fawn Chambers Watkins, she was hilarious. Not so much in this movie, but in other movies that I saw her in, like epic movies and stuff like that. But again, she pops up. She'll be popping up in and out of the movie as well. Now, in some light duty, after they get in trouble with their boss, he kind of sends them on this mission to escort these two young socialites, the Wilson sisters, Brittany and Tiffany. They're, of course, their dad is wealthy, some type of business tycoon. But apparently for them, there's going to be this fashion show over the weekend in the Hamptons. And however, there are some high-profile killings of these young, well-to-do women. So, Kevin and Marcus are being put in charge of protecting them. Now, on the way there, they run into a car. They have a car accident, and the girls end up having some face injuries. They're nothing life-threatening, but they decide because of, ego and, image, that they decide they're not going to show up. They don't want to show up to the festivities. They don't want to be seen. Marcus and Kevin, of course, they get scared. They don't want to lose their jobs because, again, it's their fault they got into the crash anyways. So instead of, just explaining to their officer or their chief officer in the command what's going on, they go ahead and decide to disguise themselves as the women. Now, and this is the part that gets to me, the older that I get. Now, when I was younger, it was funny to kind of laugh at and say, ha ha, man dressed up as a woman, blah, blah, blah. But the older that I get, that doesn't resonate as funny to me anymore. I think if you want to have, feminine energy and have it be funny, cast a woman. I think the Wayans brothers are really gifted at what they can do, especially even in terms of the writing, that they could have put two white women here and could have had this movie work. It would have made more sense. And the older that I get, the more that I look at them in that makeup and all that, I just cannot see how that could pass. Even if you want to put it's just the movie, I'm not buying it. And that was one of my biggest, now that again, on further review, on further, looking at the movie and watching of the movie, more rewatches, I'm like, that doesn't hit for me. The original scene where, both of them have passes made at them by these guys, like, it just is it's typical. Of course, he's not going to like that. He's really a guy. Of course, he's going to snap and forget that he's supposed to be, or whatever, and it just doesn't hit for me when I'm older. When I'm 13 and I'm silly and a little bit more immature about situations and things like that, then I'm like, okay, that's funny. Now that I'm more mature, I've read, I've studied, I've understand who people are a little bit more. I'm like, that's a cheap shot, and I'll get more into kind of more about their role in just a little bit. But I mean, a lot of stuff was good outside of them being dressed up as girls, and I'll get into that in just a little bit too. Now, later on, when they get into the hotel, they check in, of course, as the girls. What they don't realize is they are actually, they're buddy agents over there at the FBI. Agent Jake Harper, he's over there, as well as I believe it was Agent Vincent Gomez, played by Eddie Velez. They're over there, and they're at the hotel with the chief section officer. So they're supposed to be looking after the girls too. So there's this weird, awkward situation here where it's like, dude, how can you not tell? You're an FBI agent. You can't tell that this is black man impersonating this white woman who hired y'all. Like, I can't. Again, when you're older, you're like, I can't mess with all that. And you start to understand, oh, well, no wonder they made it so egregious with some of the other stuff they put in the movie, especially with the Terry Crews stuff. Yeah, black people's most hated black man right now. Well, yeah, so he's in this, don't forget. And he was kind of funny in this. Again, we'll break down all that in just a second. But again, as the plot, works itself out, you start bumping into these people. Again, like I said, the Copeland brothers, of course, disguised as the Wilson sisters. They done already bumped into their co-workers at the FBI, their boss as well. They also will meet up with the sisters' best friends. These will be Karen, Tori, Lisa, and also their rivals, the Vandergill sister, Heather and Megan. And one of the things that I did like about this movie, the things that I did like about this were the relationships the auxiliary characters had. The friends seemed to have really decent personalities. Some of them even had like arcs during the course of the story. I believe Karen had one, or it could have been Lisa. She was dealing with some issues with a boyfriend. She was able to get over him in the course of the movie, get back at him. Not necessarily even get back at him, but just move on. So she had a character development movement. The characters themselves, the friendship in general, they seem to care about the Wilson sisters. Of course, them being in disguise and all that. Of course, nobody can tell, but you see that they really care about their friends. They're really into them. But then you also see some other really different situations as well. Like, again, we can't relate to this. I know I can't relate to this because I'm not rich, but then you'll see other people other rich people in the movie I guess, I wouldn't say classes to other rich people, but they're saying, "Oh, this person is rich, but they don't have enough money as me." So you have those girls kind of telling you about that. So you kind of see little stuff that goes on in the social life circles. Again, I can't relate because I'm not rich. I don't live in the Hamptons. But again, you kind of see that they play that up for a little bit of laughs, and it kind of works, especially with the rivals, the Vandergilt sisters. Their father plays an integral part in the movie as we move along as well. So again, I mean, there's some things that work for me outside of the two guys dressed up. So I could have seen two white women cast here, being undercover agents, taking the place of two other white women. They look similar. That would have made all sense to me. You could have made two funny white women. I guess there weren't two funny comedic actresses that happened to be white at the time. I don't know. But again, that bit of casting, again, the older that I get, just doesn't sit well with me. Now, at the hotel, like I said, you start bumping into all the other characters there. You have Terry Crews' character, who is Latrell Spencer. He is a big-time basketball player. He's staying at the hotel as well. Later on, you would have a charity dinner again. More of some cringe factor, in my opinion, with the auctioning. Of course, they had a date auction there. You have Latrell, of course, Mr. Terry Crews' character, him winning the bet, him winning the auction, putting up $50,000 to buy what he thinks is a white girl. And I understand, if they casted a white woman there, how people would think about that. There is certain taboos about interracial stuff like that, whatever. But again, I think putting a cross-dresser up there or subjecting some type of, who you believe to be a sexual deviant up there doesn't work either. I think it doesn't hit. I think, oh wow, okay, whatever Hollywood doesn't want to do to women, they'll displace and put it on transgender or cross-dressers. I don't know. That's complicated. I just don't like it either. It just wasn't funny to me either way. Terry Crews' character in itself was hilarious in certain scenes, like the dinner scene. That was kind of funny, but again, it's a little bit cringy because again, he's it's weird. It does not resonate with me. And I like the club scene with him with the lasers or whatever. He had a fun time in that scene, but whatever. But again, it's a little bit hit and miss. There's some things that really work outside of the guys being dressed up. Now, for one, there's another subplot with Kevin, Sean's character. He's trying to get at this reporter named Denise Porter. And Denise Porter is from the New York City area. And there's a subplot with him. He's, of course, not dressed up. He's not, pretending to be his sister. But he is pretending to be Latrell Spencer, Terry Crews' character. And that's kind of fun. But you do have that subplot there. But, it kind of, works for me. He's trying to get at this girl. It takes it out of him. Just that weirdness of him being in it's just weird to see I don't think certain dudes need to do it. Or whatever, like it's just not funny. It's not worth it. It's not. I don't get it. The comedy about I don't see the comedy in cross dressing. I don't see comedy in that. That's me. I mean, again, people identify how people identify as one thing. I'm not gonna question that. That's not where I'm at. I'm just saying that's not funny to me. It's not I don't see the comedic value of that. But again, as the plot goes along, of course, you have, like I explained, you have Kevin trying to get at the reporter. He takes her over to Latrell's house. There's a funny scene with his dogs. They're, pretty much has to lock them in another room of the house because they're chasing him around. Those things really work. Those things were really funny. Other scenes, like with the girls, one of those drunk scenes, they're throwing up and, they're talking about their guy issues. Again, those down to earth scenes, they work for me. Even when, one of the characters is in there all dressed up, one of the brothers in there in drag, and that's fine. That's fine. But again, you kind of see those down to earth scenes. I like those. I'll give the movie passes for that. Now, of course, as we move along in the story, the plot gets thicker. Now, there's a dance battle between the two groups. Of course, the Wilson sisters and their friends. Of course, the Wilson sisters in disguise, and the friends, and the Vandergilts. And this is when the Will Wilson twins find out that they're being impersonated. They show down to the hotel. They cause the trouble, and pretty much it leads to the brothers getting fired from the force because, again, nobody could figure out that they were impersonating anybody else until now. Yeah, of course, Marcus has his baby mama or his wifey show up, catch him trying to, what she believes is trying to get at a white girl, but he's dressed up as one. All confusing. Again, I think he could have avoided all that. It was weird. If he would have just, and all Marcus' character had to do was just explain to his wife at one point in time what was going on. That would have solved his situation, and he just didn't want to tell her nothing. He didn't explain anything. Oops, sorry about that, y'all. But he didn't explain anything to nobody. He just kind of did his own thing, and then was all shocked when his girl found out and wanted to leave him. Like, dude, like, you put yourself in that situation. So again, there's little things in the plot that didn't really all work for me. Of course, there's the big fashion show at the end where there's the big reveal, and you have the brouhaha at the end. And of course, Terry Crews finds out that not only he's not talking to a woman, he's not even talking to a white woman. He's talking to, he's not only is he not talking to a woman, he's not talking to a white woman. He's more mad that he's not talking to a white woman as opposed to talking to a man, which means to tell me he would have been okay with talking to some dude, right? Weird. We didn't need all that. We didn't need all that extra scene. Look, if he liked that, he liked that. Whatever. Like, you don't have to beat us in the head over it. That's not what the movie was about. What is about the white chicks? That's why I think white chicks should have been in the movie, not black dudes dressed up as white women. You made it and you created something really different and weird, and it's not necessarily funny. It's not terrible, but it's not necessarily super funny either. Yeah, and that's how I feel about it. All right, y'all. This is a wrap for me today. My next episode, I will be going over some of the sports action that we have going on right now in terms of the MLB, some basketball as well. Just what to expect or what we're seeing right now in terms of coronavirus and the bubble, of course, in the NBA. So we're gonna break some of that down, and whatever drama in the world that comes up, of course, we have to discuss that too. That's what we do. I do have some more reviews. I do plan to go over Big Daddy starring Adam Sandler at some point as well. I recently saw that. One of my favorite movies, so we're gonna have to go through that at some point as well. And that's all I got for now. As soon as things come up, I will notify y'all. All right, y'all, this is your man El Jamal. Again, this has been another episode of Upon Further Review. And again, if anybody hasn't told you yet, I love you. Peace out, one love, and I'll holler at you guys later.